The Liberal leader speaks. This is the third of a series of weekly talks in which the Liberal leader speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable R.G. Menzies.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Not many years ago, we thought of socialism as a sort of debating society subject, quite theoretical. But during the last few years, socialism in Australia has come off the bookshelves and has become a hard, practical political program. Whether that program is to continue or not will be determined by your vote at the next election. In Australia, socialism is the policy of the Australian Labor Party. Yet, in the past, hundreds of thousands of Australians voted Labor, not because Labor was in theory socialist, but because Labor was in practice non-socialist. All that has now changed. The Chifley government has from the beginning been determined to make the socialist objective a reality. What is that objective? It has stood in the Labor Party's platform for 28 years in these terms: the socialization of industry, production, distribution, and exchange. These are quite uncompromising words. Carried out to their logical conclusion, they aim at the creation of the complete socialist state in which there is one ultimate employer, the government, and all the citizens are its employees. There is, so far as we know, only one country in the world in which this objective has been realized, and that is the Soviet Union. Some of the socialist ministers at Canberra occasionally offer to tell us that socialization and nationalization are different things. My reply is that we know the tree by its fruits. Take banking. They used to tell us that the socialization of banking merely meant the ultimate control of credit policies by the people through their parliament and through what they called the People's Bank, the Commonwealth Bank. There was, under socialism, they told us, plenty of room for private trading banks, so long as their advance policies were controlled by the Central Commonwealth Bank. This was, indeed, the program upon which they went to the people in 1946. But finding themselves in a majority in both houses, they proceeded, without the authority of the people, to nationalize banking by passing a law to wipe out the trading banks and give to the Commonwealth Bank, as a government bank, a complete monopoly. In effect, the Canberra socialist government has made it clear that socialization means nationalization. That is, means the taking over by the government of both ownership and control. Banking is, of course, not the only example. During Mr. Chifley's control of the government, we've seen great strides made towards nationalization of air transport, of interstate shipping, of broadcasting, and of medicine. In the last 4 years, we in Australia have been subjected to a more far-reaching program of socialism in action than has been seen in any other English-speaking country in the world in the same period of time. Does this represent the beginning of a program which is designed to continue? The answer is that the government, under its present Prime Minister, means business. If you vote it in again at the next election, it will treat that vote not only as an authority to go ahead by new means with the destruction of the trading banks, but also to exercise its constitutional powers to the limit to bring more and more matters under the government. If the socialist objective of complete power to the Parliament at Canberra were to be achieved, there would be nothing to prevent the nationalization of any industry or of all industries at the will of a single parliamentary majority. But even under the limited powers that are now held at Canberra, a great deal may be done. It's reasonable to anticipate that if the new Commonwealth Parliament were controlled by the socialists, we would in the next 3 years see more and more matters pass into the hands of the government. It follows that the real question that we must put to ourselves as voters this year is whether we desire the future of our country to be moulded into a shape in which there is more and more only one employer, and less that competition which produces efficiency, keeps costs down, ensures high production, and gives to the ordinary citizen and his wife a chance of buying things at a reasonable price. It's a useful thing to test all policies by looking at their ultimate purpose. Suppose the people of Australia accept the socialist objective, not only in relation to political programs, but in relation to constitutional power, all power to Canberra. Suppose further that we went on doing this for a comparatively short period, like 10 years. Can we doubt that under these circumstances the complete socialist state would be set up in Australia, and that in consequence we would have the all-powerful state? How would we like to be living in a country where the state was all-powerful? Let me say to the many hundreds of thousands of trade unionists in Australia, how would you really like the all-powerful state? What room would there be in such a state for trade union action, with only one employer beyond whom there could be no appeal, since the one employer would be the state itself? And let me ask them this one further question. Do you suppose that in such a state there could any longer be any choice of employment, either in nature or in place? Once the state becomes the single employer, it clearly follows that we must have conscription of all labour. For if employment can come from only one source, then it follows that the one employer can tell each citizen what job he's to learn, what job he's to do, where he's to do it, and for how much reward. The virtue of competitive private industry is not that it makes profits for individual employers, but that it ensures freedom for the citizen and benefits for the customer and a varied human life for all. The last thing I say to you is this. You can't postpone your opposition to socialism. Either you make it effective before the socialist state is created, or you're left lamenting. In Australia, our chance is presented to us in 1949, which is beyond question our great year of decision. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope to be with you again at this time next week.
You have been listening to the Right Honourable R.G. Menzies in the third of a series of weekly talks entitled The Liberal Leader Speaks.